Next story I wanted to talk about is about a guy named Kenneth Copeland. Now, I've talked about him a few times before, but he's been in the news a little bit recently. Not to mention the fact that it's been just over a year now since he made some really specific, interesting election claims about Donald Trump winning and Joe Biden losing. So, in the spirit of him making those comments roughly 1 year ago, I wanted to catch up with him and see what's going on now. This guy's been getting a lot of pushback about owning a private plane. For years, he's been getting this pushback, right? And he went on this basically talk show with his friend Jesse Duplantis, here pictured on the right, who I've covered before on my channel. He went on there with him to defend the use of a private plane, and things got a little weird. Leading up to this, let me give you a little bit of context for their conversation. Jesse Duplantis is describing a time when he was on his private plane and God started speaking to him, and he unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up and put his hands to the sky, starts talking to God himself about what he wanted him to do and so on and so forth, the grandiose, bizarre ideas. And then Kenneth Copeland jumps in with this line.
Couldn't have done that on an airliner.
No, sir. No way.
Stand up and say, "What'd you say, Lord?"
No.
Okay, no, yeah. And the guy sitting over there saying, "What the hell does he think he's doing?" You can't do that.
You can't do that.
No. This is so important. And those of you that are just now coming into these things, in the first place, Jesse and I and others, Keith Moore and Creflo and all of us.
He's listing other televangelists who are known scammers, especially Creflo Dollar. That guy is just the definition of scam artist televangelist. If you thought Kenneth Copeland was bad, Creflo Dollar is up there. He's pretty rough. I've had him on my channel one time, but he wasn't the subject of the video. He was just a cameo in there. So maybe one of these days I'll cover him in more depth.
The world is in such a shape, we can't get there without this.
That's right.
We've got to have this. We would have, the mess that the airlines are in today, I would have to stop. I'm being very conservative. At least 75 to 80, more like 90% of what we're doing, because you can't get there from here.
You know what? I actually agree with him on this point. I agree. When you're running a big business like multi-million, multi-billion dollar business even, I don't think that's how big his is, but when you're running a gigantic business like that, I get the need to go from place to place quickly. I get it. I actually don't really have a problem with Kenneth Copeland owning a plane. That's okay with me, really. It's just that it's a $45 million plane. Did you really need to spend $45 million on it? Was that really necessary? Did you need to tie it up in the church's funds so that you didn't have to pay a fucking dime in taxes? I mean, that's how this all works, and we're going to get into that in a little while too. Not only that, but the comments that come after this point that he had to say about all of this. Keep listening.
That's why we're on that airplane. We can talk to God.
Glory to God.
It's true. It's when I was flying for Oral Roberts, he said, "You keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to him unless he talks. Because when he's on a meeting, he doesn't talk to anybody but God." Now, Oral used to fly airlines.
Right.
But even back there then, man, it got to the place where it was agitating his spirit, people coming up to him. He had become famous, and they wanting him to pray for him and all that. You can't manage that today.
Right.
This dope-filled world.
Right.
And get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Now that is a real explanation of why they wanted the airplane. I get that their ministry does a lot of jumps and they have to carry a lot of people from city to city to city. So I get it. I mean, I understand why you may need an airplane for that kind of thing. But for one thing, a $45 million jet, really? One that you bought from one of the biggest and most famous preachers in the world, Tyler Perry. And they just really revealed their true motives in that one sentence. You don't want to have to deal with the people on commercial airlines. You don't want to have to deal with people coming up to you and asking them to pray and asking you to pray for them. You don't want to have to deal with demons on a plane. I mean, what was he even saying there? Was he saying that people are demon filled? I mean, I'm struggling to understand. Well, interestingly enough, I'm not the only one struggling to understand. After that clip that he did with Jesse Duplantis, mid-May 2019, Inside Edition chased the dude down to ask some tough questions. Give this one a listen.
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Wow, that went from 0 to 10 in like 3 seconds or less. Look at this guy's eyes. There's just something very, very weird about this whole situation.
We wrestle not with flesh and blood.
And now he's smiling. Oh my God, there is nothing creepier on this planet.
With flesh and blood, but principalities and powers.
What does that even mean? He just quoted a Bible verse. What does that mean? He just got in this woman's face and effectively screamed at her, right? And then says,
We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers.
What's he trying to say? I'm desperately trying to understand. Please fill me in.
Can you explain what you meant by that term then? Just explain, because it's really simple. You said you didn't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. What did you mean?
He meant he doesn't want to deal with everyday people. He views them as inferior to him. That's what he fucking meant. There's no way to twist this around into anything less than what it is. But it's damn sure interesting to watch him try to twist himself into a pretzel to explain this, basically this fuck up that he had.
Well, let me ask you.
Do you think that people...
Answer a question with a question. That's clever. That's a good idea. Redirect, Kenneth.
Let me ask you.
Do you think that people that fly commercial are demons?
If you give me a chance to talk, sweetheart, I'll explain this to you.
Boy, is he mad. I love it.
But it's a biblical thing. It's a spiritual thing. It doesn't have anything to do with people. People, I love people. Jesus loves people. But people get...
Did you see him grinding his teeth just now? Look, watch. Watch right here in the area of his teeth, his tooth area, if you will. Watch.
But people get pushed in alcohol. Do you think that's a good place for a preacher to be and prepare to go preach to a lot of people?
Among the people? You mean like Jesus did? Definitely, absolutely. Jesus did that shit all the time. You think Jesus was riding around on a private fucking carriage? Of course he wasn't. He was among the common people. He was one of them. That's why he was so revered and special and unique and all that shit. Do you think this is how Jesus lived? No.
When somebody in there is dragging some woman down an aisle...
Now he's going to give us some fictional story that I've literally never seen in my life. I've been flying since I was a little kid. My mom worked at United Airlines, as a reservation person. She would book people's flights for them over the phone. It was a call center. Well, anyways, she worked for them, and they gave us 4 free standby tickets per year to anywhere. So we may have to stay in an airport overnight, in the seats, waiting for the next flight to come along. But we could get anywhere for free. And we used that constantly. We would go from West Virginia to Connecticut to see my grandparents and back. So I spent a good part of my life from 8 years old to 18 or 16 maybe, flying on planes. Every single year, 4 times a year. Basically every few months I was on an airplane flying somewhere for free since my mom worked for the airlines. So I've been on an awful lot of airplanes in my life. Not to mention the fact that now some organizations are willing to fly me around. American Atheists, I was supposed to speak at their conference last year. They were going to pay for my flight to fly out to speak at their conference. They had to do it virtually that time. But the point is, some organizations pay for that for me now. So I've done a lot of air travel in my life. A lot of it. And I have never once in my life seen anything even resembling the situation he is about to describe for us. Let's listen.
And prepare to go preach to a lot of people. When somebody in there is dragging some woman down an aisle, it made me so mad to see that on television. I wanted to punch the guy out myself. I can't be doing that while I'm getting ready to preach.
So you just don't like to be around the sinful people or the hurtful people. Is that what you're saying?
Not the people, baby. Not the people.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know how he's going to explain that one away. I guess that was his one opportunity to explain it away, give us some insight into where his head was at. And in my mind, he failed miserably. I mean, we know what he meant. It seems to me that what he meant was he feels that he's superior to most people, and he doesn't want to be around inferior people. It seems pretty straightforward to me that that's what he meant. But, you know, that was his attempt at explaining it away. So he could have just left it there. You know, dude could have just left it alone, walked away from his bizarre defenses of owning a private jet. Just never mention it again, never bring it up. And if somebody else brings it up, then turn around and walk away, right? Is that what he did? Of course it isn't. Of course he went back to defending owning this gigantic $45 million private jet. I feel like maybe you guys don't fully understand how much money $45 million is. Do you know how much money that is? Let me tell you how much money that is. You would have to get $3.7 million per month to get a jet like that in a year. Or if you make, what's the median wage right now? $55,000 a year? So 45 million divided by 55,000. You'd have to work for 818 years and put every single penny that you own for that entire 818 years into buying this private jet to be able to afford it if you made the median wage in the US, which is around 55,000 a year. 55 grand a year, it would take you 818 years to come up with $45 million. It is so much fucking money. So much fucking money. I honestly have trouble conceptualizing how much money that is. So anyways, got off on a tangent there. Let's listen to Kenneth Copeland bring it up again. Again. He could have left it alone. He brings it up again. Mid-September 2021. Check it out.
The time has come.
Hallelujah.
Now, look, there's his old buddy Jesse Duplantis on the left. You see him? And here's Lance Wallnau on the right. These people have monstrously evil beliefs about all kinds of things. I've talked about both of them on my channels at different times, both the podcast and the main channel. You guys should just Google their names or search my channel for their names if you're interested in learning more about Lance Wallnau, Dominionist, Christian nationalist, extremist.
People say, oh, Lance, I don't know, you sound like a Christian nationalist. Yes, I am a Christian nationalist.
And Jesse Duplantis, effectively a scam artist.
I honestly believe this, that the reason why Jesus hadn't come is because people are not giving the way God told them to give. You see what I'm saying? Wow. I mean, when you understand it, you can speed up the time. I was on television. He said, I heard you was a millionaire. I said, that's not right. That's not true. He said, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. Multi. Now, add that to it and you'll be all right. Oh, he couldn't handle that. He like to have had a fit. And I said, you mess with me, I'll buy this station and I'll fire you. Yeah. Boy, he didn't like that, did he? You know, that was a little fleshy, but it felt good.
Let's keep listening to Kenneth Copeland.
Hallelujah.
For ministries, particularly traveling ministries, to have some other method of travel,
yes, sir,
other than the airlines.
That's right. Yes, sir. Agreed.
This is such a transparent attempt to rehabilitate his reputation after dashing it to pieces with his private jet. Oh my God, it's so cringy to listen to. Give it a rest. You could have just left it alone and people would have slowly forgotten about it.
Other than the airlines.
That's right. Yes, sir. Agreed.
You get into this situation, we're not going to let you fly unless you're vaccinated. Well, to me, that's the mark of the beast.
Okay, well, first of all, as far as I know, nobody has said that, no airlines. I flew recently for a funeral, and they didn't request my vaccine card, though I had it on me. So I have no idea what he's fear-mongering about. That's essentially all it is. It's just fear-mongering. He's trying to scare people. And I do just want to point out that bit at the end there, too.
We're not going to let you fly unless you're vaccinated. Well, to me, that's the mark of the beast.
To me, that's the mark of the beast. The vaccine is the mark of the beast. That is so unhinged from reality, I don't even know what to do with it. Okay, so that brings us up to last year, around this time. This actually came out mid-November 2020, so it's been a little bit over a year. But point is, I wanted to give it another watch, catch up on it, and see what he had to say for himself. This came out just after the election was basically decided. After everybody realized Joe Biden got more votes than Trump and he was going to be the next president, that's when Kenneth Copeland came out with this clip. Give it a listen.
The media said what? The media said Joe Biden's president. Ha 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 ha.
Okay, that's where you stop. Okay, I get the joke. You wanted a fake laugh for a second? That's enough fake laughing. We don't need any more fake laughing. If you stop it here, nobody else will get uncomfortable.
Ha 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 ha
Everybody is uncomfortable now. Literally everybody. Holy shit, what is going on right now? And look at him. Look at his face. What is going on here? This fake laugh turned into a real laugh a little too quickly for me. Yeah, so that happened a year ago. That was really something else. The reason things like that happen, obviously that was a fake laugh that turned into a real laugh. There have been studies done about if you put a pencil in your mouth to make yourself mimic the shape of a smile, people who do that versus people who don't put a pencil in their mouth to mimic the shape of a smile enjoy tasks more. They'll put them through a test where they do this miserable task that they absolutely hate doing, and the people who had pencils in their mouths hated the task less than the people who didn't. Because what happens on the outside is reflected on the inside and vice versa. Your emotions reflect what's happening on the outside. Fake it till you make it, basically. That's actually scientifically proven to be real in a lot of ways. Fake it till you make it. And that's kind of what happened here. Kenneth Copeland laughed his ass off until he actually started laughing for real, and it turned creepy quick. A lot of people recognized how creepy that was. So many, in fact, that he had to come out and apologize for it. This one came out shortly after the clip we just watched. Give this one a listen.
For those that might have the idea that I hate Joe Biden, I do not. No, I don't. I love him. I pray, like I said, I prayed it today for those two. And I want you to know that should it be necessary, I apologize if that came across that way.
This smile, man. This smile is absolutely too much for me.
Because I love the Lord my God with all my heart, all my soul, all my mind, and all my strength. And I love Jesus more than I love any
Please
human
don't
being.
say I love you. Please don't say I love you.
I serve him with all of my heart
Don't
and all
say
of
I
my
love
being,
you.
and I have for 54 years. And I love you.
Oh no, he said it. And he smiled along with it. That makes it even worse. Oh my God. This is rough to watch, guys.
I don't even know you, but I love you. Because Jesus is my Lord. Amen.
God, just ended on a smile. Thank you, Kenneth Copeland. What is he even watching in the background here? It looks like some guy with a leather jacket. Is that like Cheers or something in the background? I was actually surprised that he came out and said that basically he was apologizing for like talking shit about Joe Biden. I was so surprised because his main audience is deep red conservative evangelical Christians, largely. Although Kenneth Copeland steers away from direct politics a little bit more than some of the others. Like some of the other televangelists and hate preachers basically only talk about politics practically. Kenneth Copeland, it's only a sometimes thing. He does talk more about Jesus than he does about Trump, for example, which can't be said about everybody. So I'm thinking maybe that could be the reason why he felt it necessary to come out and apologize. It's possible he has a lot of Joe Biden fans. I mean, that's very contradictory to what he believes. He can't stand Joe Biden, really. He loves Donald Trump. He's a huge Trump fan. And if you've followed him for as long as I have, you know that as well as I do. But I guess he didn't want to kind of splinter his audience anymore. So he apologized for laughing at Joe Biden. Very, very strange to get an apology like that. So here's the question. Why are we talking about Kenneth Copeland now? Well, for one thing, it's been a year since all of that stuff went down. Roughly a year. Probably closer to 13 or 14 months. But there was something else going on with Kenneth Copeland that I wanted to talk about. This next story is written on the Friendly Atheist Substack. I don't know if you guys heard this, but the Friendly Atheist website on Pathos is shutting down, and he's moving to a Substack, and he's using Twitter too, apparently. Well, anyways, this is his Substack, friendlyatheist.substack.com, and the title is How Kenneth Copeland Gets Away with Living in a Tax-Free Mansion. It was written by Hemant Mehta, so let's give it a read and see what it says. Kenneth Copeland, arguably the wealthiest televangelist in the country with an estimated net worth of $760 million, pays less in property taxes than you do, at least by percentage. Even if that $760 million number is incorrect, he's referred to himself in the past as a billionaire, and his actual net worth is undoubtedly much, much higher than it has any right to be. There's a reason so many of his stories involve private jets. So here's a question. Why doesn't this wealthy televangelist have to pay any taxes on the 18,000 square foot mansion he lives in? Holy shit, dude. My house that I live in right now is 550 square feet. 18,000 square feet. That is fucking crazy. That is huge. The Houston Chronicle's Jay Root offers a frustratingly simple answer. Here's a quote from Jay Root from the Houston Chronicle. Under a little-known statute that country appraisers say is too vague and permissive, the $7 million mansion owned by Copeland's Eagle Mountain International Church is considered a parsonage, a clergy residence, qualifying for a 100% tax break. That means Copeland's church gets a pass on what would otherwise be an annual property tax bill exceeding $150,000, money that other local taxpayers must backfill to cover the cost of schools, police, and firefighters. This is Hemant Mehta again. Everyone suffers because of a legal statute that allows churches to claim any kind of living arrangement as a parsonage worthy of a tax break, not just a simple space where a pastor can live as he does the work of the church. Is Copeland cheating the system? Legally, no. He's just taking advantage of a system that benefits people claiming to work on behalf of a religion. This revelation is the fourth article in a series by Root, Eric Dexheimer, Stephanie Lamb, and their colleagues about how ministries have taken advantage of the tax code. In theory, religious ministries offer a service to the public, which is why they get a reprieve on taxes. The same applies to other nonprofit organizations as well. That's also true of pastors' homes. They don't usually get paid hefty salaries, so giving them tax breaks on their homes is a way to help out those in the profession. The problem is that churches use the law and their status as a religion to line their leaders' pockets while depriving their communities of much-needed revenue for public resources. Here's my problem with the tax code, okay? If you are a 501c3 organization, which means a nonprofit, which I believe churches fall into that category, you get a tax break. And I get it. I'm totally okay with that, actually. I'm okay with 501c3s getting tax breaks. Here's my real issue. I don't like the fact that you don't have to prove that you are a public good or contributing to society in some way to get 501c3 status, especially as a church. If you're a church and you want nonprofit status so you don't have to pay taxes, you should have to prove that you contribute to society in some tangible way. Not only that, but traditional nonprofit organizations have to file paperwork that is it takes the place of filing taxes. You don't have to pay anything, but you have to give them information about what you did with your money and things like that. Churches are one step removed from even that. Churches don't have to fill out a lot of that paperwork and turn it into the IRS, even though they're not paying taxes anyways. That means they can do anything they want and get away with it. Anything they want. They can spend money on whatever and get away with it. You have no idea what's happening to your money when you donate it to your religious leader, and you have no way of finding out. Now, if you're in a small church and you can see where the money's going, like it's just a small thing and it's basically paying for the parsonage for your preacher or whatever, that's a different situation. A lot of churches open up their books to their congregation anyways, or at least like the elders in the congregation or whatever. That's not Kenneth Copeland. A lot of televangelist books aren't open to anybody but the televangelist. That's a huge issue. They could be doing anything with that money, like, for example, buying a $45 million jet, or in Jesse Duplantis' case, a $55 million jet. I talked about him just a few minutes ago. This guy right here on the right, Jesse Duplantis, got an even more expensive jet than Kenneth Copeland does, and he sits here and justifies it to himself. And they refuse to turn their books over to anybody, especially the IRS. That's really my biggest issue with this whole situation. The fact that these people have zero accountability. Not only do they not have to pay taxes, in addition to that fact, they don't even have to tell anybody what they spent their money on. There is no accountability, and there is no contribution to society at large either. They're not contributing to the society that they're living in. They're no better than leeches. These churches are. That gets to me.